Hi, Anna.
Hi there.
Thank you for agreeing to come on the Challenging University podcast.
An absolute pleasure.
We met through LinkedIn. I read your story on a Woman of the Week, I think, from a firm called Leader Market that I used to work for. But the listeners may not know of you. So, for the listeners today and the listeners to come, could you please share your name and what it is that you do today?
My name is Anna Moynihan, and I'm co-founder of a company called TaskHer, which is a platform that enables homeowners to book tradeswomen online.
Brilliant. Now, before we get into the kind of meat and drink of that, which I'm very excited about, because we've got lots to talk about when it comes to things like apprenticeships and women in the trades. What was your own sort of journey like? Did you think when you were at school that this is what you'd be doing?
No, not at all. When I was at school, it was very much sort of in the midst of the Labour Party pushing university on everybody. It was very much assumed that you would go to uni and you would end up in a job that was sort of one of five, something to do with business studies, something to do with politics, or something to do with working in medicine. Like there was no creative jobs available. There was no one kind of encouraged you down the route of being an entrepreneur. Like that was just so incredibly far-fetched. So when I was at school, I did politics, design and technology, and French, two of which I had. I think I literally did them because it worked with my kind of like rota within my classes. Like that's how they kind of sort of encouraged you into
Yeah.
which was ridiculous at the time. Now that I think about it, and I ended up doing quite badly in my A levels, and ended up redoing them and sort of picking A levels that I actually wanted to do at college, which kind of then sort of started getting me thinking about more of a kind of creative career, which is kind of what I started out in before I ended up where I am now.
And what did what A levels did you choose then? So once you could choose the ones that you wanted to do, what
Yeah.
did you pick?
I did film studies and media studies, and I did them at college, a local
Yeah,
college, sort of in my kind of year out, essentially.
yeah,
And it did them in the evening and worked at a pub during the day, and just really enjoyed doing those. And I suppose like the way we learned as well was very different. It was an evening class.
yeah,
It was a lot more relaxed. It was about, we were watching films, and it was, it was something that I was interested in, and it was something that my school didn't offer. And
yeah.
most schools, I think, at the time didn't offer. We're talking, this was, early noughties, end of the 90s. So they just weren't on the table.
And I'm interested to know, actually, thinking about your kind of peer group when you were at sixth form, um, was it usual for people to kind of say, actually, I'm going to go to college and work? Did most people go to uni? What was the kind of experience of people that you went to school with?
So I went to a grammar school, and I think that kind of meant that I think a lot more people probably went to university just because of the nature of the
Yeah,
school. It
yeah,
was quite academic. Um, I think that there was no. I remember there being like no real explanation when it came to, because it was, what was year 11, year 10 that you went into sixth form, year 11 that you went into sixth form.
yeah,
God, just so long ago. Um, at the end of year 10, there was just no real kind of conversation about kind of what you were doing. It was just assumed that you were staying on for sixth form. There were a few people that went to college and did sort of BTECs and things like that. Some of my friends did, and sort of went and did sort of, because they just didn't enjoy the school environment.
yeah,
Um, but on the whole, I would say the vast majority of people will have gone on to university, regardless of whether they wanted to or not, and regardless of whether they were kind of studying something that they particularly were passionate about. And I was definitely one of those people, but I guess at the time, I didn't really think, because university was just so accessible, and
Yeah.
tuition fees were lower, and
Yeah.
it was just the thing that you did. And I suppose also, a lot of us would have had, I've got an older sister who'd gone to university. She was the first person in our family to go to uni, and
Yeah.
seen how much fun it was. And a lot of it was that as well. And I think a lot of my peer group would have had a similar kind of experience, that it was an option to move out, but there was never really a discussion about an alternative, certainly for me as well,
Mm.
doing anything other than staying on for sixth form and
Mm.
doing those A levels. It's just that then, because I didn't enjoy them, and because my school, I hadn't looked anywhere else, hadn't thought about moving.
Yeah.
I didn't do very well. And then I sort of gave myself a second chance and went to college and did them
Yeah.
again, so that I could get into university and actually study for something that now I know I really didn't need to go to university for. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. And
Um,
uni.
and thinking about sort of given what you do today, working with female tradespeople, um, what were the kind of career options, or do you feel there was a sense of women should be doing blah? I'm intrigued because you've written about this on LinkedIn recently, which I loved, and I just love to hear your thoughts, what your experience was of thinking about careers for women when you were looking at what you do next.
I mean, again, like, I do wonder if, so there was never a mention of the trades. And to be honest, I don't even know if there was a mention of the trades for the boys at my school in particular, because it was a grammar school, because it was quite
Yeah.
education focused. At the time, you had to pass an exam to get into that school. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the best school in the world, but that was kind of always the route that we were kind of encouraged down. But I
Yeah.
remember, I think it's when you're 16, we were doing work experience,
Yeah.
and uh I remember I was put on a hairdressing course at college. Like,
Okay.
that was my work experience. So like, I went and helped out with the hairdressing course at the local college,
Yeah.
because they didn't really know what to do with me, because I kind of wanted to do something creative, and that was kind of all that they
Yeah.
could do. um there was never, I mean, it was, and I think that in itself is quite like, it shows just, how little thought they were kind of really putting into what kind of experience people were getting. I
Yeah.
don't, there was nothing, I mean, I think you had a 10-minute chat with a careers advisor in the library, and then that's kind of, and I know that obviously there was logistics around it, and they had to find work experience for
Yeah.
however many, 16-year-old kids from the local school to go to, but there was never any kind of doubt that if it hadn't been something like hairdressing, it would have been beauty, or
Yeah.
it would have been something feminine, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I remember one work experience place, which was an insurance firm near to our school, which I actually ended up working at after school for a bit, because people from my school had worked there. But
Yeah.
there were a few people doing work experience there, and the owner, it was a really tiny firm. The owner
Yeah.
forced you to wear a skirt if you were a girl. And I just really remember that, because at my school you didn't have to wear a skirt. You could wear trousers if you were a girl.
Right.
I think that was
Yeah.
quite a thinking thing. And also we were it was a very sort of multicultural school. So
Yeah.
there was that element too. But I remember just being really annoyed that I had to put a skirt on to go to work. So these
Yeah.
poor girls that were doing work experience there, they didn't stand a chance.
That's mad, isn't it? Um, right. Okay. Interesting. So what did you go to study at uni that you really did want to study?
So I studied TV production,
Cool.
um, which you really don't, I mean, to get into TV production, you really do not need to study TV production.
Mm.
You don't need a degree. But I suppose, again, it was something that I didn't even ever question. There were
Yeah.
courses available. I had the grades to get onto the course I wanted to at Manchester Metropolitan University, and I wanted to study it because I'd gone to watch a TV show be shot at some point in my youth.
Yeah.
And really, I just thought this looks really fun. This could
Yeah.
actually, and this could be a job, and that's really cool. I don't have to sit in an office all day,
Yeah.
be on a studio floor. And so I just was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna study. And I mean, it was really good fun. It was probably an hour's worth of lectures a week.
Yeah.
And and there was a lot of practicals and there was a lot of filmmaking and stuff like that, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was not I would not say it was a proper degree really. But I really enjoyed it and I made some great friends.
Yeah. So I've got two questions. One is, what was the show that you watched that inspired you?
Do you know what? I was thinking about this earlier because I was like, I wonder if this will come up. And I can't remember. It was a dating show. It was an awful kind of MTV-esque style dating show. It wasn't at MTV though.
Ah,
And we were kind of in the crowd, like on the studio floor screaming.
yeah.
And it was just like that real proper like light entertainment
Yeah.
nonsense, basically, which
Yeah.
was very appealing to me at the time.
Yeah. No, it sounds cool. And I could see why that would appeal.
Yeah.
If we're in the spirit of sharing, I once, oh God, I once went to participate like in a TV game show where they whittle you down from like 200 to 3 people, and I was out in the first whittling down. I was like, right, I've spent all day in London
Oh no.
for for no winnings. Uh, um, when you left uni, what did you do? What was your first job?
So when I left uni, my first job, my first proper job, so I had like a summer job as soon as I left uni, which was via one of my friends' parents. They got me in to do some admin while I was looking for my first sort of proper job.
Yeah.
And my first job was on a TV production of a show called Pepsi Max Downloaded. And it was where contestant winners, I think they'd entered a competition via Pepsi Max.
Yeah.
They got to win their favorite band downloaded into their home or
Oh
hometown.
wow.
So we had like Westlife and um who else? Like just basically pop stars, Natasha Bedingfield, Miss Dynamite,
Oh,
all of those people in like the early noughties, and
yeah.
we went to the country filming shows within people's homes, or Girls Aloud was another one we did in Reading, but it was really, I mean, fresh out of university, I was staying in hotels
Yeah.
with like production crew and like June Sarpong and like,
Yeah.
all of these like Channel 4 presenters. And it was just wild for me because I'd not
Yeah.
done it. I'd done some work experience at uni.
Mm.
Lucky that because we were in Manchester, MTV had got in touch to say that they were bringing one of their flagship shows to Manchester for a week, and they'd got in touch with our course and asked if anyone wanted to be a showrunner. And that basically is what got me my
Yeah.
first job because I had MTV on my CV. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was really fun. I loved it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've just got a question in my head of whether if you enter a room and Westlife are in it, whether they all stand up at the same time. They'd all get off
Yes.
their stools to do the key change.
Oh, completely. They were as you would imagine. I remember we had to
Wow.
like film picking them up from the airport, and it was insane. Like the girls just screaming and just like trying to get them to their like tour bus and like filming it. And yeah, it just totally blew my mind because I'd obviously like not experienced anything like that before. But it was yeah, it was really funny.
Wow. It's interesting like you say, because and actually I've had a freelance film editor, producer. He was on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and he talked about the fact that he didn't go to uni and managed to find work experience and learn from the ground up. And I guess, as you say, you had the university experience, which was fantastic. Um, and you still start at the bottom. You still start as a showrunner.
Completely. And
Yeah,
whilst yes, I did have MTV for my
yeah,
little weeks worth of work experience on my CV, and that definitely helped. I do think having worked within that realm of your, if you can come across as somebody who's vaguely normal, sensible, has a driving and can, is good at timekeeping and good at getting coffee, then that's it. Once you're in, especially with TV, once you're in, you're fine, because if you get in with a good production, and I was really lucky that I did, they just keep calling you back and being like, we're doing another production, do you want to work with us? Because ultimately with that kind of with TV, entertainment TV, we're talking light entertainment TV, it's just about having fun, and people just want to work with people who are nice and they're having fun with, basically.
Wow. How exciting. How it sound, but doesn't it though sound like the dream? That is the dream. Yeah. How do you get, and I'm conscious that this is not a one step part of your career journey, but how do you get from TV production, hanging out with Girls Aloud, being in people's front rooms with Girls Aloud, how do you get from there to becoming an entrepreneur, founder of a business that promotes careers that lots of people would say are not for women?
I mean, obviously, yes, it was a good sort of, there was quite a few stepping stones in between. I think one thing that I initially learned by starting off in an industry that was very light-hearted, let's say, and it's just the area that I was working in, is that it was as fun as it wasn't really scratching the itch of me doing something that I really felt was making some sort of impact. And I did that for a while. I worked on lots of different productions. I then sort of moved into marketing. As I was getting older, I didn't want to be on productions. I didn't want to be, not seeing my friends and family, which is kind of what happens when you work in any kind of TV or film. Sort of moved into marketing, and I realized I didn't train in marketing. It was just kind of like self-taught and being given the opportunity to kind of, I'm quite a multitasker, and I think that sort of helped me like move into sort of an area that I'd not really been in before. And I worked in marketing for about 12 years in various different areas, in hospitality, in events. And again, I kind of had more creative control, and I kind of scratched that itch, but I still kind of felt like I wasn't sort of doing enough. And there was always kind of this thing in the back of my mind that was like, I just don't feel like I'm achieving. I don't feel like I'm making an impact. And in 2020, I was on maternity leave with our first baby, and obviously the pandemic hit. And at the time I was working for an events agency as head of marketing, and I was made redundant, which was kind of to be expected, given that events obviously took a real hit because of the pandemic. And I just had some time where I was sort of still on maternity leave, and I sort of realized that I think, like, because I'd had a good solid sort of 12 years of working for other people and having this real stable job, that that actually nothing was really set in stone, and that if you have a full-time job where you get paid every month and you know where you stand, it doesn't guarantee anything, because you can still be on maternity leave and a pandemic can still happen, you can still lose your job. So it kind of almost like removed that fear that I think had been standing in the way of me myself. And so when the idea of TaskHer happened, or came about, I should say, I think I had less fear about sort of jumping on it and going, do you know what, I'm gonna do this for myself. Also helped by, in no small part, the fact that my co-founder / husband, he has only ever worked for himself, really, other than like a small sort of spate of work at Halfords when he was 16. He's always had his own companies, and he's got this inherent, and I don't know if it's like a white middle class man thing, but he's got this inherent confidence in just doing it for himself and having this real entrepreneurial spirit. And so that encouragement was there too. And I think between the two of us, I just think it allowed me to take that step and go, this is I'm going to pursue this and see what happens. And if it messes up, then it does, and I'll be in no worse situation than I was when I was on maternity leave losing my job. So
Yeah. God, there's so much in there.
I've
And
just
I think
taken you through about 15 years of my life. So
yeah, and I think in what you have to say about that, as someone who also I left corporate life, where at the time people said, well, two things. One is you're so brave, and I thought, well, like you say, life happens. So what are you going to do? Sit and wait. The other thing that people said was like, are you mad? Because there's, no pension, no car allowance, no commission. There were all of these things that you lose, but what you gain in working for yourself and saying, I did that and I'm getting paid for a job well done, that I can kind of say that was mine from start to finish.
so,
Um,
and I think it's also really hard to I don't know if you found it the same thing, but I often I find it really difficult to look back on what we've achieved in the last couple of years. Like, we've built something from nothing, and it's still really hard to believe. It's still really hard to take any credit for it. To just go,
yeah,
oh, no, but this happened and that happened, and I don't know if that's like a female thing or just a me thing, but like it's difficult to kind of it's difficult to kind of take like real like stock of what you've achieved, and you have to remember to do that, because there's
yeah.
literally the reason why I'm doing it is because I don't think I could ever go back to working for somebody else now.
No, there's a friend of mine who's freelance, and she says, we're just unemployable now, Tony.
Yes, so true.
Um, how did the idea for TaskHer come about?
So in 2020, towards the end, I think it was in the sort of November time, when things were starting to kind of open up a little bit, we were getting some work done on our house, we were getting some work done in our kitchen, and I was kind of project managing it, and I had the vision, and I was looking for tradespeople, and I was looking for tradesmen, and I was looking online on the kind of usual places, on like online directories. We didn't have any real recommendations within our network, and I remember having a few over to give us quotes and sort of check out the space, and they would sort of arrive and they'd just automatically speak to my husband, and I stood right next to them, just like trying to talk to them, because my husband didn't really know what was going on. He didn't really know my grand plans.
Yeah,
And I was just like, this is really annoying.
yeah,
And so and it just hit me. I was like, why have I not looked to see if there's a female available here? Like, it just
yeah,
wasn't on my radar. And so I started to see if I could find anyone, and I found it really hard. Like, and there were women out there who were kind of marketing themselves, but I suppose when you're a tradesperson, like, you're a tradesperson, that's what you're good at. You're not necessarily, I mean, obviously there are people that sort of straddle both sides. Most tradespeople aren't amazing marketeers, and vice
yeah,
versa.
yeah,
And so it was really hard to find them. And on the directories I was looking, like, it was just all men. You couldn't find a woman. There was no way of searching for a woman.
yeah,
And so I just remember saying to my husband, like, just feel like this is something that we should pursue and we should look into, because I think that this is something I want, and we've got, at the moment, we've got the time, because neither of us are working.
yeah,
We're going to have to do something.
yeah,
And we just started literally on the back of the fag packet, just like sketching out an idea for how it could work. The other frustration we were both having is, I'm just on the cusp of being a millennial. I don't like phoning people. I don't really like massive interactions. I like things done quickly. I wanted to book someone online, and I
yeah,
wanted to have it, like, I wanted that sort of security. I wanted to be able to pay online. And so we were
yeah,
kind of trying to merge the two. And so we sketched out this idea, and we approached an early stage impact fund called Bethnal Green Ventures, who run an accelerator program, which is incredible. And they offer you investment and a space on their accelerator, basically. And we managed ourselves on that. And that was what gave us the funds to, we spent the majority of that initial investment, which was, I think it was around 50K, but part of that was to pay for the accelerator program. So maybe 30. We basically spent the majority of that on our kind of MVP, like our prototype of
yeah,
our booking tool and our brand, which was just incredibly important. And then it went from there.
Okay. MVP, is that most viable product? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I remembered something.
It's like
Okay. What do you think it made a difference that you and your husband were doing this together? I mean, maybe this is a silly question on my part, but given your husband's background and experience, did that influence the way you approached it and whether you would be likely to have got access to that funding?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think Bethnal Green Ventures is incredibly they're looking for diverse founders. So
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, no,
Yeah.
like I would have done. I think obviously two brains who are both, I think our skill set matches really well. Like he's very sort of mathematical, very logical, very he's got a lot of he's very sort of he's got a lot of experience within, building businesses, and I'm much more kind of creative and sort of brand marketing side, and sort of, I suppose, also female,
Yeah.
understanding our customer anyway. I think that one of the things that I think we were concerned about was the fact that we were together at the time. We weren't actually married, but we were, quite clearly living together. We were concerned that people would not invest in us because we were in a relationship, and actually it's actually kind of gone the other way, really. I think we've had a couple of questions in our last round of whether or not, but ultimately we met at work as well. We'd worked together for years before we actually got together. So we'd had an established working relationship before our if you want to call it that.
Well, I think that's probably quite good, because just the thought of working with my husband is terrifying. And we both, this is a shared thing.
And don't get me wrong, it's, we spend literally every waking moment together, and we want to murder each other sometimes. But I think that because that was in place beforehand.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky one to answer. I think that he definitely knew more of the tricks of the trade than I did.
Yeah. How did you know? So I guess you knew there was the appetite for people that wanted to hire women electricians and plumbers and gas fitters. How did you know that there were enough tradeswomen to fulfill that need?
Well, we didn't at the time. We actually started off doing it was so analog. Because obviously, one of the issues was tradeswomen were tricky to find. We put together a couple of surveys. So we did one for customers, and we kind of got like people within our sort of our bubble to share it with people within theirs, because we kind of knew what our demographic was that we were kind of aiming for. That was an easy one to just sort of understand if that was actually something people wanted. And then we put together a questionnaire for tradeswomen, and we literally just dug them out on Instagram, their website, and we ended up with this panel of tradeswomen, these 3 tradeswomen who kind of were our initial kind of jumping off point, who they were all really, really interested in what we were doing, really invested, and had really good networks, and they really helped us sort of introduce it to other tradeswomen. And then we literally were booking in calls and offering Amazon vouchers for an hour of their time on Zoom to look at what we were building, to give us feedback and ask us. And we were constantly like, is this what you want? Is this helpful? Like, we don't have a trades background. We can see issues from our side. Is this true? And just basically data gathering continually. And it was a real stop, especially because obviously, like, tradesmen were working all day. All of this work was taking place between like 7 and 10 o'clock at night every single night. And but it was a sort of unanimous decision from every tradesman we spoke to, that it was, there were plenty of tradeswomen out there who weren't making themselves known, and there were plenty of women out there who wanted to train, who were interested in training, who felt like they shouldn't be doing it, or they were intimidated because they were the only female in the room. And yeah, like there's never been a point where we were like, this isn't something that's needed.
Yeah. And tell me, there's something that you said in there about the opportunity that exists for women and like girls when it comes to to trades.
So, well, I think like times are changing. And I think that's literally since we've been working on TaskHer in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I've noticed a shift. And maybe it's because of TaskHer, we are routinely contacted by bigger names, bigger players within the industry, asking to connect, asking to understand how they can partner with us so that they can access more tradeswomen, because diversity and inclusion targets exist, and people need to hit them. And we have now got, a database, and we have access, and we have trust from a community of tradeswomen. But there's still so much work to do. And as a woman, as a school leaver, I think, again, there is work happening. But ultimately, if you're a young girl who doesn't want to go to university, who's 16 and is trying to work out what her opportunities are, there's nothing to introduce young girls into the trades. And I mean, as in there are a handful of schools and there are a handful of companies who are trying to get into schools and to share information. And one of the things about schools, from what we've discovered and from what we've spoken to other startups that work with schools, is that they're impossibly hard to work with, because there's so much red tape, and because there's so much going on, and it's obviously so little resource. But trying to get that information over to young girls is at the moment very, very difficult. And it's not, and one of the things I think that is making a change is things like younger women who have Instagram, who are on TikTok, who are also who are creating content, where these girls look, and I hate saying, I don't know why I struggle just calling them girls, but they are, because they're young. They're there with their long hair and their fake tan and their long fake eyelashes and their nails, but they're fixing a fuse box, and they're pulling a boiler off the wall, and they're TikToking it, and they're doing an Instagram reel. And young girls at school, they can see that, and that is what it's amazing, because they're basically rebranding the trades for school leavers. And I think that message and the work that those women and girls are doing is great, and that's something that we can definitely get on board with, and we can help support. But we can't just create it; it's got to come from those people. When it comes to women, I think that a lot of the women that we work with, the issue that they have is that people don't think tradeswomen; they just think tradesmen, and me included. And one thing that we're working on with TaskHer is this kind of brand awareness, not just of TaskHer, but the brand of a tradeswoman, like thinking tradeswoman as well as tradesman. And getting people to search, I want a tradeswoman, rather than just tradesman in my area, using terminology like handy person or handy woman. And that stuff takes time. I think on the whole, a lot of the tradeswomen we work with, they have repeat clients, they have customers that they work with aside from TaskHer, that they love working with these women. I don't think they struggle to find work, but obviously there are other complications. We have a tradeswoman that we work with who does some weekend jobs for us, some evening jobs with us. She has a couple of small children, and she's having issues in her day job because she just can't fit in enough hours around childcare. And as a female focused business, that's another thing that kind of crops up really, really regularly. And the trades just are not set up for women. And so there's just this mental shift that needs to happen. And obviously little old TaskHer kind of chipping away. And there are other businesses who are trying to do, to try and do that too. But it's a seismic shift that is going to take a lot of time.
And something we spoke about kind of prior to today's recording was if you are, say, early in career, so you haven't yet, started a family, your world is your oyster, the kind of financial opportunities to work in the trades as a career are pretty cool. So it'd be great if you could kind of talk about what that might look like for a young woman.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like one of the first things that myself and my co-founder Paul, when we first started looking into women in trade, and school leavers, and how many how many girls attend trade apprenticeships when they leave school, the thing that was so incredibly staggering was that basically girls are filtered into, if you don't go on to do your A-levels and you don't go on to do university, you're filtered into hairdressing, cosmetology, childcare, and they're all really badly paying industries, and yet their male peers are then going on to do electrical work or plumbing or heating and gas. And it's estimated that girls are basically losing out on £750,000 worth of lifetime earnings if they go into a female trade, i.e. hair. And the trades, skilled manual trades are so lucrative for a reason. We wrote a little post recently about how, to train as an electrician, it takes you minimum 3 years, which is the same as a nurse, a teacher, a police officer, a paramedic, like all of these skilled jobs, which are obviously all incredible jobs as well, but there's a real, well, in some of them, there's a difference in pay. But if you become an electrician, and you're an electrician in London, you could be looking at anything between 50 and 100k a year, depending on how much you work and if you're self-employed. And that's an incredibly lucrative job. And I don't hesitate to say without a doubt, all of our tradeswomen are earning more than me and Paul. And that is something that I'm so passionate about, like the rates that we set, that they've been set with our panel of tradeswomen. We looked, and we are only live in London at the moment. We're looking to expand sort of nationwide, and obviously the rates will have to reflect, the areas. London is, always going to be more expensive, and therefore we will pay tradeswomen more. But it's always so important to make sure that those tradeswomen are getting paid fairly for their skills. And I think that that's another educational piece that we're working on with our customers. I think I talked quite a lot about unconscious bias on my LinkedIn recently, because, and it is a bit of a key term, but there's the majority of our customers are female, but they also, and including me, have a lot of bias towards what they're paying for skilled trades in general, regardless of gender. And I think, the trades as a whole, they need a bit of a rebrand too, because these people are spending a lot of money to train. It's not cheap. And then doing update for training, you're paying for tools, you're paying out for parts and waiting to be reimbursed. Like, there's a lot of money at play, and it should be fairly compensated by the customer. And it's just trying to understand that, it's trying to communicate that the jobs that they do are actually very skilled and very technical, and really important, and won't be taken over by AI. We're always going to need someone to fix our boiler or electrics,
and it's the point you touched on there about the kind of skill levels involved, and certainly my experience from school and college, and it is so fascinating, isn't it, that people go, well, and this is not my opinion, but this is what people would have said, was that the trades were for people who are not clever. And yet, I've got family members who are builders and roofers, and you need working knowledge of mathematics to stick a roof on a house. It's not work for people that aren't bright. So
absolutely the opposite. The opposite. Especially, I mean, God, do you the idea of being a heating and gas engineer and going and messing around with someone's boiler and then leaving them, and then like
Yeah.
I'm not taking on that responsibility. Like,
Yeah.
I'm stressed out about posting a post on LinkedIn, let alone, you know, killing a whole household because I've not sorted out their boiler properly. Like, they
Yeah.
are so skilled and so smart. And I think that it's this. I think that's one of the reasons why TaskHer works, because what we offer is we offer the skills that we have, which are admin skills, we are
Yeah.
marketing, we are sorting out like invoices and working with them to make sure that they're not having to do too much admin. And I heard someone say once that tradespeople are sort of, they're business people that don't want to be business people. They're really good at what they do. They want to,
Yeah.
and it's, I think, I mean, I don't know. My assumption is it's just the way that people's brains are. And so we're just sort of joining forces. Our skill set is, you know, marketing, sales, and tech, and to
Yeah.
support and to let tradespeople, and specifically tradeswomen, to kind of get on with what they do best.
Yeah.
And then allowing customers to kind of benefit off the back of that. And I think that that's where maybe at school, you know, the naughty kid in class or the kid with ADHD who couldn't really concentrate, they go off to work in the trades, because actually once they're focusing on what's on something that they're really interested in and they're really good at, like,
Yeah.
that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to sit in a seat all day and, you know, learn. They wanted to be moving around and problem solving. And
Yeah.
like we're doing it at the moment, we're working to create like a piece around neurodivergent tradeswomen. And there's a platform called On the Tools who did a study recently that said that 50%, I think it's like 52% of tradespeople identify as neurodivergent. And it's just no surprise, like when you
Yeah.
work continually with tradespeople.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part and parcel of it too. So like it's just constantly like about the messaging around it, and obviously there's only so much that we can do
Yeah.
with regard to our messaging, but it's also just communicating with the people that have more sway and bigger companies, and just trying to rebrand the world of the trades so that we're normalizing women in trades, and so that trades are recognized as a valuable job to move into when you're leaving school, and that you don't have to go to university, regardless of your
Yeah.
parents' middle class and you live in a
Yeah.
lovely in the country.
Yeah. And I think actually it's a really valid point, because there's a lot about, and I contribute to the conversation about, for like council estate kids that want to go into the professions or have a, you know, professional career. But conversely, there will be young people who have a middle class or very comfortable upbringing. They shouldn't be precluded from becoming a plumber, electrician. There should be no, you can't imagine that there'd be but some people see it as a stigma attached to being a highly qualified tradesperson.
No, it is ridiculous, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
that of the colleges that we've spoken to in the past have said the issue, it really is the parents a lot of the time. The child be
Yeah.
like really interested in it. I really like the idea of becoming an electrician. And the
Yeah.
parents are like, no, like I would like you to go to university, and then you can study for 3 years, and then you can come out and get a job that pays you half of what you'd get if you're an electrician. But like, it's, you know, and a lot of at that age, that
Yeah.
school leaving age, you're still really like within that fold of the family. Like, it's difficult to push against what your parents are saying. And
Yeah.
again, you know, it's another message, another group of people to tackle.
So, and one thing I'll ask you for, 'cause I don't want to put you, but if you can send me, I'd love to see some of the kind of links to the young women who are on Instagram or TikTok that you think would be great for young people to follow. Um, Thinking about TaskHer and what you've done, and kind of what would come next for you, because I get a sense, you know, there's some big things coming. You know, what's in the plan for like this year and beyond?
Well, we've just closed a raise at the end of last year, which was great. And so we're now looking at growth, of our trades. So at the moment we offer 3 trades, electrical, heating and gas and plumbing. And we're looking at growing that and offering more. And the reason that we sort of didn't just go in and offer all trades is, well, for two reasons. Firstly, you know, you have to start somewhere. Secondly, our booking platform is about booking online, and we're working with some AI developers as well to try and like update our platform to allow us to offer more complex trades to be completely bookable online. So that's something that we're looking to do this year. Towards the end of this year, we're looking at expanding out of London. It'll be to other major UK cities. Obviously, that's like a really big jump for us. We've got like, what's great is that we have got like a really big database of tradeswomen throughout the UK. Really amazing community of tradeswomen. But obviously, we still need to kind of make that work from our side of things as well. So there's a lot of work to do there. We're looking at some really exciting partnerships. We're looking at how we can work with more. We've got a partnership with a women's refuge charity called Solace Women's Aid. We're looking at doing more of that, more partnerships to support women, and like basically growth and improving the product. You know, we're still at the moment slightly working with our original version of our product, and we've learned so much. And you know, in a couple of years that we've been going, AI is obviously kind of like really ramped up. So we're doing a lot of work to improve our product using that. So yeah, there's lots of exciting stuff.
And I quite like that actually, that where you've got AI being used to help provide more work to people that have got a skilled physical trade.
Yes,
that is an application of AI that I can get behind.
we're not taking jobs away from anybody. We're actually giving jobs to people with
jobs.
Which is I know a lot of people are really worried about. I'm sure AI will kind of wield its way into the trades world more, but yes, you know, if you have a skilled trade, you're only going to have more work. And you know, we're in a trade deficit at the moment in the UK, tradesperson deficit, I should say. We need more tradespeople. That's why we need women and school leaving girls to consider the trades. We need to encourage them into the trades, because at the moment we're just ignoring 50% of the population, putting them off and intimidating them. And we need to reverse that so that we can actually have somebody to come and fix our boiler.
It's and I hesitate to, but it's in my head now. All I can think about is, when are you going to have like a musical ident? So, you know, like Check a Trade. So checkatrade.com. What will yours be?
Oh God, who knows? Something very feminist, I'd imagine. Whenever I'm putting stories and reels up on like Instagram and TikTok, I'm always like really careful about the name of the song that I use to make sure that it's like something really like women, like female empowering. So it'll be something along the lines of that. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll move into TV advertising, who knows? But yes, the aim is to get people to start searching for tradeswomen and realizing that is an option for them. And and we'll continue to grow our community. We've got this amazing WhatsApp community of tradeswomen, and they all support each other. Like literally just before I jumped on this call, there was a plumber just sort of sending a picture of a shower, an electrical shower, just going, oh, does anyone know how to remove this bit? And like everyone was sort of chiming in, and it's just really lovely to see, because you know, that community of, they're all just women who's supporting each other from all over the country, and I love it.
None of them went,
oh, better get a man.
Oh, I don't know. It's going to take at least, 5 days. It's awesome. I'm so excited by what you're doing. And there are so many clips in there where I just know it's like, we're in a deficit of tradespeople. We need to have young girls, women joining the trades, reskilling. I can't wait to share this. And so where is the best place for people to find you and learn about you?
So our Instagram is kind of like our main hub. So it's task.her, at task.her. And then obviously our website is tasker.co.uk. Kind of
Brilliant.
a few bits at the moment. I'm working on TikTok. That's our next. I'm a bit too millennial for TikTok. I need to kind of start thinking more like a Gen Zer.
Okay, well, tell me when you dip your toe in. I'm still not there yet. It's been just such a pleasure to talk to you, Anna. Thank you for sharing your time with me.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking about myself.